Hi everybody, and welcome to Middle Grade Monday. I'm Lorie and I'm the teen librarian at Manlius Library, and I'm here to tell you today about some animal books. We're going to start with Whoo by Sharon Creech. It's about 12-year-old Rena. She and her younger brother and their parents have moved from New York City to a small town in Maine, and the differences are clear. It's a slower pace, a quieter place where the kids are free to bike around town on their own. Almost immediately, their mother volunteers their services to Mrs. Falala, an elderly Italian woman who needs help with her cow. From their first job, shoveling manure, they progress to putting a halter on the moody Zora, the belted Galloway cow they gradually and grudgingly befriend. Before long, Rena has agreed to take care of Zora and show her at the local fair, which requires work, patience, and help from more experienced livestock handlers. Rena soon learns that a little kindness works wonders for both people and animals. This book is told in a combination of verse and prose, and it's from the first-person 12-year-old Rena's point of view. It's a fabulous book, as are all of Sharon Creech's. Highly recommend. Next up is an adventure story, A Wolf Called Wander by Roseanne Perry. Wander is a young wolf cub who is separated from his family after a rival wolf pack attacks and claims his family territory as their own. His 1,000-mile journey across the Pacific Northwest to find a new home brings danger, hunger, and desperate loneliness. It's inspired by the true story of OR7, a real wolf that naturalists tracked in the wild. Along the way, Wander encounters such threats as a human with a lightning stick, a busy highway, a cougar, and a forest fire, all the while yearning for the companionship of another wolf. This is an action-packed adventure for both animal lovers and fans of survival fiction. Next, we have something a little different. This is called The Language of Spells by Garrett Ware, and it's about a dragon, because dragons are animals too, right? It's about Grisha, a dragon born in the Black Forest in Germany in 1803, at a time when magic was still pretty commonplace. But when a powerful sorcerer's enchantment turns Grisha into a teapot, he can still see and hear, but he can't move and speak. After many decades, which include the 2 human world wars, Grisha is freed and travels to Vienna, where he has heard that the dragons are congregating. But soon after he arrives, many of the dragons mysteriously disappear. He soon meets Maggie, 11-year-old Maggie. Grisha is happy and surprised that Maggie can see him, since by now humans have become so busy and so preoccupied that they can't really see what they don't want to see, which includes dragons and magic in general. The two, Grisha and Maggie, quickly become friends, and they determine to find the missing dragons. This one is a little slower paced, leisurely, very descriptive, great for fans of historical fiction, fantasy, and even mysteries. Next up, Squirm by Carl Hyacin. Billy Dickens, main character of this book, is not your typical tween, unless your typical tween has a thing for rattlesnakes, which some do. His dad's been out of the picture for as long as he can remember, but Billy has finally been able to get a hold of his address, which is in Montana, not far from Yellowstone. The savvy, brave, oddball tween flies out there solo to track him down. Once in Livingston, Billy meets his father's new wife and stepsisters, who are both members of the Crow Nation, and he becomes embroiled in his father's well-intentioned but dangerous attempts to protect wildlife from trophy hunters. Unfortunately, his dad's not so easy to track down. As the story spans from Montana to Florida and back, Billy continues to find and lose his father, who's in a bit of a wild goose chase himself, hunting down rich boy poacher Lincoln Chumley Baxter. This one, like all of Mr. Hyacin's books, is super fast-paced, action-packed, very clever, and very funny. I recommend this and all of his books. Hoot and Squirm and Flush and Scat and Chomp. There may even be another one. Highly recommended. Very funny environmental animal mysteries. And finally, if you're in the mood for a graphic novel, there's lots of animal-based graphic novels, and I've pulled a few to show you. There's, of course, Baby Mouse. And there's also Baby Monkey, Private Eye. This one's by Brian Selznick and David Serlin. You may know them from Hugo. And it's full of pictures, big print, and lots of mysteries. There is, of course, the unbeatable Squirrel Girl. And if fantasy is your thing, Phoebe and Her Unicorn starts a wonderful series of books, graphic novels all. So there you have it, 4 very different animal novels and some graphic novels too for your summer reading pleasure. If you've seen something you like, pop over to our catalog and reserve it, or go to our website and fill out the curbside pickup form, and we'll put together a selection of books for you and your family that you can make an appointment to pick up. And speaking of summer reading, if you're signed up for the Manliest Teen Summer Reading Program, your secret code today is BLUSTER, capital B, L-U-S-T-E-R, BLUSTER. Go to your account, click on the Middle Grade Monday Mission, and enter the code to complete today's activity. If you're a teen ages 12 to 19 in Central New York and you're not signed up, head over to our website at manliestlibrary.org and get signed up today. And if you're not yet 12, we have a summer reading program for you too. Now, I'm going to show you how to make some really unique textured art. All you need is glue, sugar, and food coloring. So now I'm going to show you a really fun, easy way to do some texture painting. And all you need is a cup of sugar, some food coloring. If you have liquid watercolors, that would work as well. And it will probably work with acrylic, watered way down acrylic paints. But I highly recommend using food coloring if you have it, or the liquid watercolors. Little cups of water to mix your food coloring and water it down. And you can use droppers or small paintbrushes. If you're using small paintbrushes, you also want a clean cup of water to rinse your brushes in between, and some paper towels to dry and make sure that the color is out of your brushes. You also want some fairly sturdy paper. I'm going to be using cardstock today. You could use watercolor paper, or a heavier construction paper would work for this. And glue, just regular old school glue, white glue, clear, whichever kind you have on hand. Okay, there's a couple separate steps, a couple different steps to this one. So we're going to set the glue and sugar aside for just a minute while we mix our colors. And I'm just going to do some orange, mix it up. Your food coloring should dissolve pretty quickly, even if it's a gel-based food coloring. Okay, so you've got your colors mixed and ready to go. Now, I'm using this little tray because after I do my design, I'm going to sprinkle sugar all over it. And this will help keep the sugar in one spot so it doesn't get all over everything. Set that water aside. Your next step is to do your design. Now, you can draw it on your paper however you want, or you can just do what I'm going to do and have it be freehand. And I'm just going to do a random set of designs on the paper in glue. This is your fun part, your creative. Make it however you want. You could do a picture. The important thing to remember is you don't want to let your glue dry completely before you get to the next step. So we'll call that good. Now what you're going to do is take your sugar and sprinkle it over the glue. Be generous. You want to cover all of it. Oh, I did not make sure I didn't have any lumps. You want to cover all the glue with sugar. This is easy to see because once it's got sugar on it, it's no longer shiny, really. Okay. This is really the only time sensitive part of the project. Obviously, if you let your glue dry, the sugar won't stick. Now, if you don't have sugar or you don't want to use sugar, or maybe you want to try something else, you can use salt. You can use any kind of salt, table salt, Epsom salt, any size grain, or if you want to use a different size grain sugar. You do just need to remember it has to be white sugar because the brown sugars, the colors won't show up, okay? But anything that's granular like that, you could try. It would work. All right, so we've got our design completely covered in sugar. Now we're just going to lift it up. Give it a good shake. And set it aside. You should not, however, pour the sugar back into the bag. This is not sugar that will be reused for cooking. Okay, so you can see we've got our design and it's all covered in sugar. Now, you can set this aside and let it dry before you go on to the next step. You could make more of them and have a whole bunch ready to go, or you can do this before the glue dries. If you do it before the glue dries, be really careful because if you press down on it, the design will collapse, okay? So there's two different ways that you could do this. Either way, you want to be really careful to only use a little at a time. One drop, whether it's from an eyelet or an eyedropper or from a paintbrush. One drop of color at a time. Otherwise, you'll have a blobby mess. I'm speaking from experience. So we'll start with the blue. Okay. One drop at a time. And you'll see the color spreads out throughout it. So maybe I want all of these to have a blue. Okay. Okay. Again, very important, one drop at a time. If you do it too much, it'll spread out into your paper, which may be the look you're going for, but for this project, okay? Now, so that's it with the eyedropper. If you're doing it with a paintbrush, you want to use a small paintbrush, and as I said, have clean water, unless you're going to have a paintbrush for every color, have a cup of clean water to rinse your brush and some paper towels. So, take your brush, dip it in, and you're just going to drop it on. Maybe we want a bit of a bigger brush. Just one. There we go. Drop at a time. Okay? And you'll see the blue and the green. The sugar will actually pull the color through. Okay. I think the big difference between the paintbrush and the eyedropper is with the paintbrush, you have a little bit more control because you can control the size of the brush. With the dropper, you're limited to one drop at a time. Okay, so you can be endlessly creative. We're going to rinse this brush off. So once you've got your whole design done with the colors that you want, set it aside and let it dry. If after that you want to go back and add more, or you want to do some painting or coloring in between on the paper, that's the time to do that after your design has completely dried. Okay, so there you have it, a very easy craft. Endlessly creative, you can use your imagination and do anything that you want. So thanks for joining me for today's Middle Grade Monday. I'm Lorie, I'm the teen librarian at Manlius Library, and you can find me here every Monday at 4 o'clock on the Manlius Library YouTube channel. Again, if you are in the teen summer reading program, your secret code is BLUSTER, capital BLUSTER, BLUSTER. Just head over to your account and enter that on today's activity. I hope you enjoyed today's book suggestions and activity. I'll see you next Monday.